thought I was just marrying an old rich man for money. Just 7 days, that's all it was supposed to be. But on the 7th day, I walked into his study, and what I found in there nearly made my heart stop. That man I married? He wasn't who I thought he was at all. Please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification icon so that you will be the first to be notified each time I post new stories. Kemi's slippers dragged through the dust of Ikorodu market, each step heavier than the last. The tray of roasted corn balanced on her head felt like the weight of the world. At just 21, her youth had been stolen first by her father's death in the Okada accident, then by the slow, suffocating grip of poverty. Her mother's labored breaths at night were a constant reminder. Time was running out. The chemist's shop was her latest battlefield. She clutched the crumpled prescription, her voice fraying as she haggled over the price of medicine they couldn't afford. The pharmacist's dismissive shrug sent a hot wave of frustration through her chest. Just one more thing trying to break us. Then, the purr of an engine cut through the market's chaos. A black Lexus, sleek and out of place, rolled to a stop beside her. The tinted window slid down, revealing an old man, Chief Bamidelahis, tailored agbada and calm demeanor radiating power. His eyes, sharp and assessing, locked onto hers. "You're a strong girl," he said, his voice smooth, almost kind. Kemi stiffened. Strangers didn't offer compliments without wanting something. "I can help your family," he continued, "if you agree to marry me." A laugh burst from her lips, brittle and disbelieving. "Marry you? You're old enough to be my grandfather." Chief Bamidale didn't flinch. He smiled, patient, as if her reaction amused him. "True, but I will give your mother the best doctors, a home. 10 million naira after 7 days as my wife. Then, if you choose, you walk away." The numbers echoed in her skull. 10 million. More money than she'd ever touched, enough to erase the landlord's sneers, the gnawing hunger, her mother's weakening cough. That night, her mother's ragged breathing filled their one-room apartment. When the coughs turned wet, when the blood speckled the rag, Kemi's resolve hardened. She closed her eyes, swallowed the bitter taste of shame, and whispered, yes. Destiny, it seemed, had a price and she was ready to pay. The news tore through the market like a Harmattan windharsh, swift, leaving whispers in its wake. "That corn girl? Selling herself to an old man?" The words slithered between the stalls, carried by the same women who used to haggle over her roasted corn. Some pitied her, some envied her. None knew the truth. Kemi had expected shame, but not this hollow ache in her chest when her childhood friends crossed the street to avoid her. Their laughter cut off mid-sentence when she approached. Only the old mama who sold bitterleaf met her eyes, squeezing her hand with a sigh. "Life is war, my child. Do what you must." Chief wanted no fanfare, just a cold, quick signing at the registry, her shaky signature sealing her fate. The borrowed shoes pinched her feet, the cousin's makeup felt like a mask. In the mirror, a stranger stared back a bride draped in white, her eyes dull with surrender. His Lekki mansion swallowed her whole. The ceilings loomed too high, the marble floors too polished, every surface gleaming with a wealth that made her skin prickle. She perched on the edge of a sofa worth more than her life's earnings, afraid to leave a mark. Night after night, she lay stiff in a guest room, softer than any bed she'd known, listening to the silence. Chief never came. Only his knocks at dawn, polite as a hotel steward. "Would you like breakfast, Kemi?" On the 5th day, a wrong turn led her to his study. The room smelled of leather and something sharper fear. Her breath hitched. The wall was a mosaic of her life. Grainy photos of her at the market, a newspaper clipping of her father's accident, and at the centre, a crimson file with her name stamped in bold. Her blood turned to ice. That evening, the creak of the front door echoed like a gunshot. Chief's footsteps paused outside the study. The door was ajar, she'd forgotten to close it. When he appeared in the hallway, his usual calm was gone. The air thickened. "Did you enter here?" Her mouth went dry. "No, sir. I was just looking for the kitchen." The silence stretched, taut as a noose. Then, like a shadow passing, his smile returned. "Be careful what doors you open, Kemi." His voice was velvet wrapped around steel. Some secrets don't like to be disturbed. For the first time since the wedding, real fear coiled in her gut. What had she just walked into? Kemi couldn't sleep that night. Her heart kept racing as she remembered the red file labelled with her full name, Kemi Adeola Hassan. How did Chief Bamidele know so much about her before they met? What else was inside that room? She sat up in bed, staring at the ceiling. She thought about the photos she had seen pinned on the waller at the corn stand, her walking to the clinic, even one of her holding her mother's hand outside their house. These weren't normal. This wasn't a man who had just seen her in the market one day. The next morning, she acted normal. She smiled politely at Chief when he brought her toast and tea. But inside, her stomach turned. "You slept well?" he asked gently, eyes watching her closely. "Yes, sir, thank you," she replied. "Good," he said, then paused. "You only have 2 days left. I hope you're comfortable." Kemi nodded, but something told her that what came after those 2 days wouldn't be as simple as walking away with 10 million naira. She decided to call her best friend, Zainab, who had been avoiding her since the wedding. "I need help," she whispered into the phone from the guest bathroom. "Something's wrong with this man." Zainab sighed. "Kemi, you married a 70-year-old man for money. Of course something's wrong. What did you expect, romance?" Kemi clenched her jaw. "No, it's more than that. He's been following me. There's a file on me, photos, my whole life." Zainab suddenly got quiet. "Kemi, are you safe?" Kemi didn't know how to answer. Later that day, Kemi walked through the mansion's back garden. The place was huge, with flowers trimmed like they belonged in a royal palace. At the far end was a tall, quiet gardener. He had always avoided eye contact with her. But today, he looked up. "I know you're scared," the gardener said softly without looking at her. Kemi stopped walking. "Excuse me? You opened the red file, right? You saw your pictures." She stared at him, her throat dry. How do you know?" He dropped the rake. "Because every woman who steps into this house does. You're not the first." Kemi's breath caught. "What do you mean?" He leaned closer and whispered, "Chief Bamidele is not who you think. You have 2 choices. Pretend you know nothing and leave when your 7 days are over, or dig deeper and risk everything." Kemi's legs felt weak. But what is he hiding? The gardener looked away. "Ask him about the woman in the blue dress. If he tells you the truth, you'll know." Just then, Chief appeared on the balcony above them. "Kemi," he called, "would you like to join me for dinner tonight? Just the 2 of us?" She turned slowly. "Yes, sir," she replied with a shaky voice. Her mind was already racing. Who was the woman in the blue dress? She needed to find out. But at what cost? That night, Kemi wore a simple orange gown to dinner, but her thoughts weren't on the food or the wine. They sat across from each other at the long dining table. A soft jazz tune played in the background, but her heart was louder. She decided to ask. "Chief," she began, keeping her tone light, "who is the woman in the blue dress?" The fork paused halfway to his mouth. His hand froze for a moment, then he placed it down slowly. "That's a name I haven't heard in years," he said calmly, but his eyes lost their warmth. "You knew her?" she asked. "She was my late wife," he replied. "She died a long time ago. Why do you ask?" Kemi swallowed hard. "I saw her photo. In your study. She looked young, almost my age." Chief didn't answer at first. Then he smiled again, but it was cold this time. "You entered my study after I told you not to. I got lost. I didn't mean to." "You don't have to explain, Kemi." He stood up and walked behind her. She tensed as he placed his hand on her shoulder. Curiosity is natural, but curiosity can also be dangerous. She looked down at her plate. The food suddenly tasted bitter. As he walked away, he added, "If you ever go into that room again, Kemi, we won't be having any more dinners." That night, as she lay in bed, her thoughts screamed louder than ever. Who was that woman really? Why did Chief react that way? Why did the gardener say she wasn't the first? She didn't feel safe anymore, but she also couldn't leave without answers. The next morning, while Chief left for a business meeting in Abuja, Kemi knew it was her only chance. She waited an hour to be sure he was gone. Then she tiptoed toward the study again, heart beating fast. The door creaked open. Nothing had moved. The wall was still covered in photos. The red file was back on the table, closed neatly. But now she noticed something else. A painting in the corner had been slightly shifted. Behind it was a keypad lock. Her fingers trembled as she tried random numbers. Nothing worked until she remembered the blue dress. The date on the photo frame read May 5th, 1999. She typed 50,599. Click. The wall slid open to reveal a narrow staircase. She looked around. No one was watching. Slowly, she walked down. The air was cold, the lights dim. What she saw made her freeze. It was a small room, almost like a shrine. Photos of different women, files stacked high, and on one table, a wedding dress. Blue, just like the one in the photo. Kemi's legs almost gave out. In the center was a photo of her next to the blue dress. This wasn't just about a dead wife. She was in something far deeper than she had imagined. And she had only one day left before the deal ended. Kemi backed away from the dress as if it would come alive. Her whole body was shaking. She looked at the wall and counted 5 different women, all around her age, all beautiful, all smiling in their photos. But none of them looked alive anymore. One file was open. The girl's name was Adeyez. Under her photo were words written in red pen. Married, day 9, disappeared, case closed. Her breath caught. Disappeared? Case closed? Another file read, Temelade tried to run, handled. Kemi's stomach turned. She wanted to throw up. She stumbled up the stairs, trying not to make a sound. Once she was back in her room, she locked the door and sank to the floor. She was the sixth. This wasn't a love story, it was a trap. She needed to escape. But how? The gates were locked. The guards respected Chief too much to let her out. Her phone had been missing since the day after the wedding. Chief said he was upgrading it. She grabbed her small handbag. She had nothing, no ID, no money, just fear and the ticking clock in her head. She had to survive the last 24 hours. But Chief returned earlier than expected. By evening, Chief Bamidel was back in the mansion. Kemi heard the sound of his shoes on the polished tiles. The way he walked slow, heavy, and certain made her heart race. He knocked gently on her door. "Kemi, are you inside?" She didn't answer. "I made dinner. I was thinking we could celebrate. Tomorrow is your final day." She still didn't respond. Chief laughed lightly. "Or are you packing already? 10 million naira is waiting." Kemi forced herself to reply, voice trembling. "Yes, sir. I'm just resting. I'll come down soon." When she heard his footsteps fade, she opened her window. Her room was upstairs, but she could see the garden below. No security there right now. If she could tie her bed sheets together. She began knotting her bed sheets, just like in the movies. But her hands were sweating, her mind full of noise. Then came a knock on her window. She screamed, but it was the gardener. "Shh," he whispered. "You found the room, didn't you?" She nodded, tears in her eyes. "What is this? Who is he?" "He's a collector," the man said. "Not of things of women. He calls it his legacy. You were supposed to be the last." "Why didn't you stop him?" she whispered. "Because the last one who tried never came out of the study," Kemi gasped. "Please, help me escape." He looked down. "Meet me at the side gate at midnight. I'll unlock it for 60 seconds. That's all I can do." She nodded, her heart slamming in her chest. Midnight couldn't come fast enough. But Chief Bamidele was already watching her from the security room. He had seen the whole thing, and he was ready. The clock ticked slowly toward midnight, each second like a loud knock in Kemi's chest. She didn't eat, didn't sleep. She just sat, waiting, dressed in dark clothes and ready to run. Every little sound made her jump. She kept checking the time. 11:40, 11:50. At exactly 11:59 p.m., she opened her door quietly and tiptoed down the hallway. The mansion was too quiet. Even the usual guard by the front door was missing. She slipped through the back corridor, her footsteps light as feathers, heart pounding like a drum. She could see the side gate now, and the gardener. He stood beside the lock, holding a key. "Hurry," he whispered. As Kemi reached him, he looked nervous. "Run straight to the bush path. Don't stop. Don't look back." She nodded. "Thank you." He opened the gate. Kemi ran. The cold night air hit her face as she moved past the wall, her sandals flying off as she rushed barefoot into the dirt path. Behind her, she heard something. Footsteps, voices. Then bang! A loud gunshot shattered the silence. She ducked behind a tree, gasping. "Find her!" a voice yelled. It was Chief. Kemi's world spun. He was hunting her. She didn't stop running. Branches slapped her arms. Thorns scraped her legs. But she didn't care. All she wanted was freedom. She could hear dogs barking in the distance. She finally reached the roadside. A single car was coming. She waved frantically, screaming, "Please stop! Help me!" The car slowed down, Relief filled her chest until she saw who was inside. Chief Bamide. Behind him, 2 guards sat with guns. Kemi froze. "Get in," Chief said calmly, his voice too calm for what just happened. "No," she whispered. He got out of the car slowly, as if he had all the time in the world. "You didn't follow the rules, Kemi. You broke the deal." "You're a monster," she cried. He walked closer. "Do you think this is about love, about marriage? I gave you everything. All you had to do was stay. Now you've ruined it." 2 guards grabbed her before she could run. She screamed, kicked, but it was useless. Back at the mansion, he threw her phone at her feet. "Call whoever you want," he said. "Tell them the truth. Tell them the poor corn seller married the wrong man. Let's see who believes you." She picked up the phone with shaky hands, but it was dead. Chief turned to his guards. "Take her to the lower chamber. Let her think for a while." As they dragged her down a staircase deeper than she'd ever seen, Kemi knew one thing. This story was no longer about escaping with money. It was about escaping with her life. Kemi was thrown into a cold, windowless room. The door slammed shut behind her, and she heard the clank of a lock turning. Darkness surrounded her. No bed, no light, just concrete walls and the quiet sound of her own breathing. She sat in the corner, shaking. Her arms were bruised, her feet dirty, and her heart felt like it was breaking open. This wasn't marriage. This wasn't help. This was prison. Minutes passed, maybe hours. She couldn't tell. Suddenly, a soft light flickered on from above. A small camera lens appeared in the corner of the ceiling. "Comfortable?" Chief's voice echoed through a hidden speaker. Kemi looked up, tears burning her eyes. "You'll stay here until I decide what to do with you," he said. "You broke the rules. You entered my past. Now you must face your future." The speaker clicked off. Kemi screamed into the silence, punching the wall with all her strength. "You can't keep me here." But her voice only echoed back at her. Then she noticed something strange. Scratches on the wall, names, dozens of them, each one carved into the concrete like a diary of the forgotten. Temilade, Chinyere, Fola, Bisola. And then, Kemi. Her name was already there. Someone had written it before her. She backed away, horror creeping up her spine. Had Chief known all along? Hours later, the door creaked open. Kemi blinked at the sudden light. 2 guards entered and dragged her out. She expected punishment. But instead, they took her back upstairs to the same elegant dining room. Food on the table, fresh clothes waiting. Chief sat calmly, sipping tea. "You must be hungry," he said gently. Kemi didn't move. "I want to show you something," he continued. "Something no one else has seen." She sat down slowly, eyes watching him carefully. Chief led her down another hallway. At the end was a silver door with a fingerprint scanner. He pressed his thumb and the door opened. Inside was a room of mirrors, dozens of them, but every reflection was different. Kemi gasped. Each mirror showed a version of her, one smiling in a wedding dress, one crying in the chamber, one holding hands with Chief. "What is this?" she asked. "This is what I collect," he whispered. Moments, faces, pieces of people. "I don't kill, Kemi, I preserve." Her legs shook. "You're not a collector. You're sick." Chief laughed. "Sick? Maybe, but I'm also powerful. And unless you want to disappear like the rest, you'll stay. Kemi stared into one of the mirrors. But the face staring back wasn't hers anymore. It was terrified, broken, caged, and Kemi knew she had to end this. Not just for herself, but for every girl who came before her. Back in her guest room, Kemi stared at her reflection in the mirror. She no longer recognized the girl looking back. The sparkle in her eyes was gone. Her lips didn't smile anymore. But something new had started to grow inside Haranja. For the first time, she wasn't just scared. She was angry. Angry at herself for saying yes to the marriage. Angry at Chief for trapping her. Angry that no one believed her or came looking for her. But most of all, she was angry for the girls whose names were now scratches on a wall. She sat quietly and started to plan. Escape wasn't enough. She needed to expose him. That meant proof, real evidence. And that meant going back into the mirror room. Late that night, when the mansion was silent, she slipped out of her room. She had found a small pin earlier in the bathroom and kept it hidden in her sleeve just in case. The hallway was empty. The mirror room door was shut, but the fingerprint scanner still had a faint glow. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a paper napkin she had used to fake a fingerprint earlier. She gently pressed it on the scanner. To her surprise, it worked. The door clicked open. She stepped inside. But she wasn't alone. As soon as Kemi entered the mirror room, the light turned red. Behind her, the door slammed shut. Then the screen on the far wall lit up and Chief's face appeared. "You never learn, do you?" he said calmly. Kemi turned slowly, her heart racing. "I knew you would come back here," he continued. "Curiosity is your weakness." She didn't reply. "You want the truth?" Chief leaned forward on the screen. "Fine. I built this room for one purpose: to freeze time. Each mirror holds a girl I cared for. They reflect the last moment before they betrayed me." Kemi's voice shook. "What happened to them?" Chief smiled. "Some left. Some stayed. Some disappeared. Completely. You're a monster." "No, Kemi," he said. "I'm a man who wanted love. But love is a game, and every game has rules." She clenched her fists. "Then I'll break yours." Suddenly, she saw something in the Cornera security panel with a blinking red light. She dashed to it. Chief shouted, "Don't you dare!" Kemi ripped the wires loose. The entire system glitched. The mirrors flickered. Faces flashed. Screams echoed. Then silence. She had shut it down, and she wasn't done yet. Now she knew where to hit him next. Not with fear, with exposure. Kemi ran out of the mirror room before the backup power could kick in. She knew she didn't have much time before Chief figured out her next move. Her mind was focused on one thing: now proof. She snuck into the study again. This time, she knew what to look for. There were files in the drawer labeled with names, but more importantly, a hidden safe under the desk. She pulled the carpet aside and found it. She didn't know the code. Her hands trembled as she tried the same date from before 50,599, the date of the blue dress photo. Click. Inside were flash drives, passports, and a black notebook. She grabbed them all and stuffed them into her waistband. Just as she turned to leave, the door opened. Zainab, her best friend. Kemi's eyes widened in shock. "What? How did you get in here?" Zainab stepped inside, shutting the door behind her. "You think I didn't know?" Kemi froze. "Know what?" "That you were going to mess everything up. You never listen, Kemi. Kemi's mouth dropped. You're working for him? Zainab rolled her eyes. He pays me more than any job in Lagos ever will. You were just supposed to stay and keep quiet. You led me here, Kemi whispered. You sold me out. Zainab's face turned hard. And I'll do it again. Now give me the notebook. Kemi backed away, her voice shaking. I trusted you. Zainab pulled out her phone. I'm calling Chief. You have 5 seconds to hand it over. Kemi bolted out the door, and for the first time she knew she was completely alone. Kemi didn't stop running until she reached the farthest end of the mansion, the servants' quarters. She banged on the first door she found. A young woman opened it, maybe a few years older than her. She wore a simple wrapper and a worried look. Please, Kemi begged, hide me. The girl, whose name was Ronki, pulled her inside without asking. Once the door was shut, Ronki whispered, I've been waiting for someone like you. Kemi blinked. What? Ronki nodded. You're the first to make it this far. The others, they didn't even get to the files. You knew? Kemi asked, breathless. I clean the mirror room, Ronki said. I've seen their faces. The girls. I prayed someone would stop him. I have the files, Kemi whispered, and the notebook, but I need to get out or he'll kill me. Ronki quickly pulled out a small bag. Wear this, she said, handing Kemi a housemaid uniform. Pretend to be one of us. The guards don't check us when we go to the market. Kemi changed quickly, her heart beat with new hope. Ronki added, There's a bus stop 5 minutes from the back gate. If you make it there, take the first bus into town. Go straight to the press. Kemi nodded. Thank you. I won't forget this. But as she slipped out of the servants' quarters in disguise, a security camera silently followed her movement. And inside the mansion, Chief smiled at the screen. The final test has begun, he said. Dressed in the housemaid's uniform and holding a basket of old laundry, Kemi walked slowly through the backyard, blending in with the other staff heading toward the back gate. Her heart thumped wildly with each step. She kept her head down, praying no one would look too closely. The guards at the gate barely glanced her way. Going to the market? One of them asked casually. She nodded and mumbled. Yes, sir. Chief said we're low on bread and eggs. He waved her off. Hurry back. Don't waste time gossiping like last week. Kemi forced a tight smile and walked past. The moment she stepped outside the compound walls, tears welled up in her eyes. She had made it. She didn't dare run yet, not until she was completely out of sight. She followed Ronki's directions carefully. Bush path, side road, rusty water tank. Finally, she saw it the bus stop. Just as she was about to cross the road, a black SUV screeched in front of her. Zainab jumped out. You really thought I wouldn't catch you? Kemi tried to run, but 2 more men stepped out of the vehicle. This time, they didn't wear suits. They wore black. Grab her, Zainab shouted. Kemi dropped the basket and bolted in the opposite direction. Barefoot, heart in her throat. A woman at the bus stop shouted, Thief! Thinking it was a robbery. But one old man near the kiosk saw what was really happening, and he stepped in. The old man blocked the path of the men chasing Kemi and raised his walking stick. Leave her, he barked. One of the men tried to push him aside, but the man didn't flinch. Do you know who I am? He growled. I'm Mr. Thomas, senior editor of the Lagos Observer, and I saw everything. Zainab hesitated. Sir, this is not your concern. She's a what? he cut in. A maid running from armed men? In a housemaid's uniform? With a bleeding foot and fear in her eyes? He turned to Kemi. "Girl, what's your name?" "Kemi," she said, panting, tears running down her face. "I have proof, files, photos, everything. Please help me." Mr. Thomas waved at a passing keke. "Get in!" Kemi leaped into the tricycle, clutching her waist tightly where the flash drives and notebook were hidden. The men hesitated. Zainab shouted, "Do something!" But the keke zoomed off before they could react. Inside, Mr. Thomas stared at Kemi. "Start talking. What are you running from?" She told him everything about Chief, the mansion, the mirror room, the missing girls. Mr. Thomas listened without blinking. Then he pulled out a recorder from his pocket. "This story will burn down the city," he said. Kemi looked out the window, her chest still rising and falling quickly. She wasn't safe yet, but for the first time, someone believed her. And she was done being quiet. The next morning, Kemi's story hit the front page of the Lagos Observer. Billionaire chief accused of holding young brides in Mansion of Secrets. The paper spread like wildfire. People crowded newsstands. Twitter was buzzing. Radio stations mentioned it every hour. And everyone had the same reaction shot. Some refused to believe it. Chief Bamidele? That old man that built 3 churches and paid school fees for orphans? Others said, "I've always known there was something off about that man." Mr. Thomas had done more than just publish the article. He sent the files and photos to the police, human rights groups, and the governor's office. But the most powerful reaction came from Chief himself. Inside his mansion, he sat calmly in his silk robe, drinking tea. "They're louder than usual today," he said to Zainab, who was pacing nervously. "Chief, we should go. The police might come." He smiled. "They won't dare. Not until I tell them what I know." Zainab frowned. "What do you mean?" Chief stood up. "Power isn't about being right. It's about what you know and who you own." He picked up his phone and dialed a number. Yes, she talked. Prepare the next move. Then he looked straight at the security camera and whispered, "Let's see how far she can run." At a safe house arranged by Mr. Thomas, Kemi tried to rest. But rest was impossible. Her body was tired, but her mind was still spinning. She couldn't stop thinking about the girls, about the mirror room, about Chief's calm face, and the way he always smiled like he was 5 steps ahead. Mr. Thomas knocked on her door and entered. "You did well, Kemi, but now it gets dangerous." She sat up. "What do you mean?" "Chief has money, connections. He's going to fight back. That article hurt him, but it didn't destroy him." Kemi sighed. "Then what now?" Mr. Thomas placed a phone in front of her. "Someone wants to talk to you." She hesitated, then answered the call. "Hello, my dear," came Chief Bamidele's voice, calm as ever. Kemi's heart dropped. "You're braver than most," he said, "but bravery comes with a price." "What do you want?" she said through clenched teeth. "I'll give you an offer," he replied. "Take the money, 20 million naira. Leave the country, never speak about this again. I'll even give you a new identity. And if I don't, you'll wish you had." He hung up. Kemi dropped the phone, her hands shaking. Mr. Thomas watched her. "So, what will you do?" Kemi stood up slowly, her eyes filled with fire. "I didn't come this far for hush money. I came to end him." And this time, she meant it. The next day, Kemi sat in front of a microphone at Galaxy FM, one of the biggest radio stations in Lagos. Her voice was being broadcast across the country. The host, A confident woman named Auntie Kike nodded for her to begin. Kemi took a deep breath. I was just a corn seller. I didn't go to university. I didn't grow up with plenty, but I knew what was right and what was evil. Chief Bamidale promised to help my family. Instead, he trapped me, used me, watched me like I was a rat in a cage. She paused, her voice shaking slightly. I know I'm not the only one. There are others. I saw their names, I saw their faces, and I will not stay quiet anymore. The studio fell silent for a moment. Auntie Kike leaned in. What would you say to girls like you? Girls who are desperate and being targeted. Kemi looked directly at the camera. I'd tell them to speak, even when they're afraid. I'd tell them their silence is not protection, it's a prison. And we must break the doors open for good. That moment lit a fire. By evening, the hashtags Justice for Kemi and Stop Chief Bamidale were trending nationwide. Women began to send in anonymous stories about parties at the mansion, secret weddings, girls who went and never returned. Kemi had started something bigger than herself, but Chief was watching, and he was already making his next move. At night, Kemi sat alone, scrolling through the hundreds of messages from women she had never met. Some said thank you. Some begged her to keep fighting. Some warned her to leave the country now. A soft knock came at her door. It was Mr. Thomas. He looked tense. We have a problem. What is it? She asked, already feeling her stomach twist. He handed her a phone. On the screen was a breaking news alert. Breaking. Kemi Hassan wanted for alleged blackmail fraud. Her mouth fell open. What? Mr. Thomas nodded grimly. Chief has filed a case against you, claims you forced him into a fake marriage, stole files from his company, and threatened his life. This is all lies, she shouted. Yes, but his lawyer is powerful. The court already issued a warrant. Kemi's mind spun. So now I'm the criminal? That's how powerful men stay untouchable, he said quietly. Her hands trembled. What do? We go public again. Bigger this time. We hold a press conference. Live. Cameras rolling. Let the whole country see your face and hear your truth before they arrest you. Kemi nodded slowly. She wasn't running anymore. She would face him in front of the world, and she'd make sure this time he would not win. Kemi sat at a long table in front of over 15 reporters. Flashbulbs clicked. Camera crews adjusted their focus. The air was thick with tension. This was no longer just a scandal. This was war. Beside her sat Mr. Thomas, a human rights lawyer, and Ronki, the housemaid who had helped her escape. Together, they looked like an army of truth. Kemi leaned toward the microphone, her hands steady. My name is Kemi Hassan, and I am not a criminal. More flashes. Reporters leaned forward. I was promised money and safety in exchange for marriage. But instead, I was taken into a house full of secrets, watched day and night, and nearly erased like the girls before me. I found files, photos, even a secret chamber that held memories of those he used. She held up the notebook and flash drives. These are not lies. These are the lives he tried to bury. A reporter asked, Why now? Why speak up? Kemi looked straight into the camera. Because silence helps evil grow. And if I stay silent, another girl will be next. Applause followed. Reporters shouted questions. Some called her brave. Some called her a liar. But the most important thing was they were listening. Just as the press conference ended, A plain black car pulled up. Police officers stepped out. "Kemi Hassan," one said, "you are under arrest for investigation." The crowd gasped. Mr. Thomas stood between them. "She's not running. She's ready to fight." Kemi held up her wrists without fear. She was no longer hiding. She was walking into the fire. The cell was small, damp, and cold. But Kemi didn't cry. Not this time. She sat on the bench, holding tight to her strength. The arrest had been planned by Chief, no doubt. But what he didn't plan for was how loud her story had become. Outside, protests were growing. Students marched at Lagos University. Women gathered at the State House. Celebrities posted her name. And everywhere, people were asking the same thing. Why hasn't Chief Bamadil been arrested? In her cell, a female officer quietly passed her a note. Kemi opened it. "Keep talking, we believe you. A sister in uniform?" She smiled. Then the door creaked open. It was Mr. Thomas, holding a fresh suit and a wide smile. "You're going to court," he said. "The judge agreed to hear your case. The governor is watching and the world is listening." Kemi stood. Even in prison clothes, she looked like a warrior. "Let's go," she said. "I'm ready." And in that moment, she wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for every girl who was never heard. The courtroom was packed. Lawyers, journalists, activists, and even students filled every seat. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but that didn't stop the energy from feeling like a national event. Kemi stood beside her lawyer in a simple suit. Her hair was tied back neatly. Her eyes focused. Chief Bamadil sat on the other side, wearing his signature agbada, calm as ever, smiling like he owned the room. The judge, an elderly woman with sharp eyes, looked over her glasses. "This is not a normal case," she said. "This is a case of truth versus power." The trial began. Chief's lawyers spoke first. They painted Kemi as a gold digger, a liar, a girl who married for money and tried to destroy a man's name when she didn't get what she wanted. They brought in fake witnesses. One claimed Kemi planned the whole thing. Another said she was mentally unstable. Then it was Kemi's turn. She stood and took the oath. In clear, simple words, she told her story about her mother, the market, the deal, the red file, the mirror room, and the names carved in the wall. She spoke with no tears, no anger, just quiet strength. Then came the moment that silenced the courtroom. Her lawyer placed the flash drive into a laptop connected to a screen. Videos played. Footage of the mirror room. Photos of the girls. Chief's study full of files. People gasped. The judge narrowed her eyes. Chief's smile faded. And for the first time, he looked worried. As the evidence continued playing, Chief shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He looked at his lawyers, who now whispered with each other in panic. Kemi sat still, hands folded, watching the truth finally take up space in the room. One of the files shown belonged to a Dazeth, girl listed as disappeared. A photo of her ID and a letter she had written before she vanished appeared on the screen. In it, she wrote, "If anything happens to me, tell the world Chief Bamadil is not what he seems." The judge leaned forward. "Where is this girl now?" Kemi spoke softly. "I don't know, my lord. I think she's gone." Gasps echoed again. Chief's lawyer tried to object, but the judge silenced him. "This is no longer about marriage. This is about abuse of power." Outside the court, protesters held signs. "We believe Kemi." In the silence. "Justice for the forgotten brides." Suddenly, the courtroom doors swung open. A woman in a blue dress stepped in. Everyone turned. She looked about 30, eyes sharp, voice trembling. "My name is Amaka. I was once his bride too, and I'm ready to speak." Chief turned pale. Kemi looked at the judge. The tide had finally turned, and this time it was turning fast. The courtroom went silent as Amaka walked to the front. Her blue dress swayed slightly with every step, and her voice shook as she spoke, but her words were clear. "I was 17 when Chief Bamadale promised to pay my school fees. He said all I had to do was marry him for 1 week. Like Kemi, I thought I could walk away. But I never did." Gasps filled the room. Chief's lawyer stood to object, but the judge raised a hand. "Let her speak," Amaka continued. "He kept me in that mansion for over a year. I was locked in that secret chamber. I watched girls come and never leave. I escaped one night with the help of a guard who was fired the next day." She reached into her bag and pulled out a pendant. "This belonged to Ada's. I found it on the floor the night she disappeared." Kemi felt her chest tighten. "She's gone," Amaka whispered. "But her voice is in this courtroom today." The judge turned to Chief. "Do you deny this?" Chief remained calm. "Anyone can say anything, my lord. These are emotional girls, chasing attention and money." But the courtroom no longer believed him. Amaka looked at Kemi, tears filling her eyes. "Thank you for not running." Kemi nodded. "Thank you for coming back. 2 women, 2 survivors, and now a movement." That evening, the court adjourned, and Chief was told to surrender his travel documents. His lawyers whispered in angry tones. He no longer smiled. Back at the safe house, Kemi and Amaka sat together. They shared stories, tears, and fears. Amaka revealed even more shocking things. Chief paid police to ignore complaints, how he erased names from the registry, how he had an entire system that kept him untouchable. Mr. Thomas joined them. "The governor has launched a special investigation panel, and a private detective is now looking into the files you exposed." "Will they really bring him down?" Kemi asked. Mr. Thomas nodded slowly. "They have no choice. The court of public opinion is louder than ever." But the danger wasn't over. Late that night, a black car was spotted near the safe house. A note was left on the doorstep. "One by one, you will all disappear, just like the others." Ronki read it aloud, her face pale. "He's not giving up." Kemi folded the paper and put it in her bag. "Then neither will we." She had been hunted, humiliated, and locked up. But now she had a voice, an army of supporters, and one final mission: to bring down the empire Chief Bamadale had built on fear. The next day, Nigeria woke up to a new headline: "More victims step forward in Chief Bamadale case." At least 4 more women came forward, their identities hidden, but their stories all the same: marriage deals, promises of money, a week-long stay, and then terror. The press called it the Bamadale pattern. Kemi's name became a symbol of resistance. Stand with Kemi flooded social media. Top influencers, news anchors, and even a few politicians publicly called for Chief's arrest. Inside the mansion, Chief's trusted circle was shrinking. His lawyer had quit. His estate manager fled the country. One of his guards was arrested trying to cross the border with a fake passport. But Chief? He sat alone in his gold-covered living room, sipping from his cup as if the world wasn't on fire. He made one last call. "Make her disappear," he said coldly. "This ends now." That night, Kemi stepped out of the safe house for a breath of fresh air. 2 female officers guarded the entrance, and she was supposed to be safe. She stood by the gate, staring at the night sky, thinking of her mother, of her days, of the other girls who didn't survive. Just as she turned to go back in, a black van screeched into the street. Men in black jumped out. "Target acquired," one shouted. The officers pulled their weapons, yelling for backup, but Kemi was already running. One man grabbed her wrist. She bit his arm hard and slipped free. The female officer tackled another attacker while the second fired into the air. Sirens blared in the distance. Within minutes, backup arrived. The attackers scattered, but 2 were caught. Kemi sat on the ground, breathless, bleeding from her elbow, but she was alive. And the phone found in the attacker's pocket? It led straight back to one person. Zainab, her best friend. The betrayal cut deeper than any bruise. Back inside, Mr. Thomas said, "They're getting desperate. That's a good sign." Kemi looked down at her torn sleeve, her hands shaking. "We're close," she whispered. "So close, but we need to finish it before they finish me." The war was no longer about survival. It was about justice. The next morning, Kemi was escorted into a police station to formally testify against Zainab. Her heart broke as she looked at the woman who once called her sister. Zainab sat across from her in handcuffs, still defiant. "I saved you from poverty," Zainab snapped. "You'd still be roasting corn in the sun without me." Kemi's voice was steady. "You sold me. You fed me to a monster." Zainab scoffed. "You think you'll bring him down? He'll buy his way out like he always does." But for the first time, Zainab's confidence sounded shaky. After her testimony, Kemi stepped outside the station with Mr. Thomas, Ronki, and Amaka by her side. A crowd had gathered. Reporters rushed forward with mics. One shouted, "Is it true the Inspector General has issued an arrest warrant for Chief Bamadel?" Mr. Thomas nodded. "Yes, it's official. He will face the court, no more hiding." Kemi's knees almost gave out. She had dreamed of this moment, cried for it, fought for it. And now it was real. She whispered, "We did it." But Mr. Thomas placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's not over. He'll fight back harder now. Stay sharp." That night, a nationwide bulletin interrupted TV programs. Breaking news. Chief Bolaji Bambadele wanted for multiple counts of illegal detention, abuse, and attempted murder. The country held its breath. The empire was crumbling. Police raided Chief Bamadele's Lekki mansion the next day at dawn. Kemi watched the footage from a secure hotel room. Her chest tightened as she saw officers swarm the gates, kick open doors, and pull out boxes of hidden files and cash. But Chief was gone. He had vanished. In his private quarters, investigators found a journalist's own handwriting. "They never stay silent forever. I should have learned from the first one." The girl in the blue dress. Chills ran down Kemi's spine. "He ran," Ronka whispered. He knew this day was coming, but he didn't get far. By nightfall, he was found trying to escape through a private airstrip in Ogun State. He was dressed in plain clothes with a fake passport and $500,000 in cash. Arrested, handcuffed, paraded. Kemi watched it all live on TV. The mighty had fallen. In a moment of silence, she whispered to herself, "This is for Ades, for Temelade, for a marker for all of us. But she knew something bigger was coming next, the trial of the century, and she would be front and center, not as a victim, but as a voice. The entire country came to a halt as the trial of Chief Bamadil began. TV stations suspended their usual programs. Hashtags like The Trial, Justice for the Brides, and Kemi v's Chief trended non-stop. The courtroom was larger this time. Special security was in place. The judge, Honourable Justice Ekanemwas, known for fairness and bold decisions. He sat high on the bench, looking down at the man who had once been untouchable. Chief Bamadil walked in wearing white kaftan, flanked by his new team of expensive lawyers. Still calm, still smiling. But that smile didn't reach his eyes. On the other side sat Kemi. She wore a navy blue suit, no makeup, no jewelry, just strength. Beside her were Mr. Thomas, Amaka, and Ronki. Justice Ekanem spoke firmly. This is not just a case of money or marriage. This is a case of power misused, lives destroyed, and secrets buried for too long. The prosecution opened the case with brutal honesty. They showed clips from the mirror room. They read names from the scratched wall in the chamber. They showed Zainab's confession video. And finally, they brought out Chief's journal entries, his own words proving his guilt. The courtroom sat in stunned silence. For the first time, Chief looked unsure. Then came Kemi's turn to testify again. Kemi walked to the witness stand, the whole country watching through live broadcast. She took the oath and then looked directly at Chief. "You saw me as weak," she said. "A poor girl, someone you could use and forget. But what you didn't know was that poor girls survive. And when they rise, they carry others with them." She turned to the judge. "He promised my family help. Instead, he gave me fear. He offered me money. Instead, he gave me scars. But I'm standing here, not to cry, not to beg, but to make sure he never hurts anyone again." Gasps echoed. Chief finally spoke up. "I gave her a better life," he shouted. "She was nothing before me." Kemi looked at him, calm and strong. "And now I'm something without you." The judge banged the gavel. "Enough!" As Kemi stepped down from the witness box, everyone in the room stood and applauded silently, no claps. Just respect. Outside the courtroom, crowds waited with banners and flowers. Mr. Thomas leaned in and whispered, "No matter what happens next, you already won." But Kemi wasn't satisfied yet. She wanted justice, and she wanted every broken girl to know their voices matter. The trial lasted 2 more weeks. More witnesses came forward, former staff, past victims, even one of Chief's ex-drivers who confirmed strange late-night trips to unknown locations. Everything matched the stories Kemi and the other women had told. Chief's defense team tried everything. She's bitter. She's lying. She's after money. But the evidence was too strong. The mirror room, the missing girls, the journal, the forced disappearances, all undeniable. Outside the courtroom, the movement grew. Women from across Africa shared their stories. Social media turned Kemi into a symbol. She received letters from girls as far as Kenya and Ghana saying, "You gave me courage. I thought I was alone. Now I believe I can fight too." Inside her hotel room, Kemi sat quietly, reading those messages. She hadn't set out to be a hero. She just wanted to survive. Now, she was days away from justice. The judge announced that the verdict would be delivered Friday morning. Kemi stood by the window that night, staring at the Lagos skyline. "This is bigger than me now," she whispered. And somewhere in the city, Chief Bamidele sat in a prison cell, writing in a fresh notebook. But this time, no one would read it, because no one feared him anymore. Friday morning arrived. The courtroom was silent. Not a whisper, not a cough, just the sound of the judge flipping pages in his ruling. Kemi sat with her hands in her lap. Her heart beat so loud she could hear it in her ears. Ronka held her hand tightly. Mr. Thomas gave her a reassuring nod. Chief Bamidele stood in the dock, his eyes cold and unreadable. Justice Ekanem began. After careful review of the evidence, testimony from victims, and cross-examinations, this court finds the defendant, Chief Bolaji Bamidele. The room held its breath. Guilty on all counts. Gasps, tears, applause erupted outside the building. Guilty of unlawful imprisonment. Guilty of attempted murder. Guilty of psychological abuse. Guilty of multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy. Chief lowered his head. The judge continued. "You are hereby sentenced to life in prison with no option for parole." Kemi covered her face, tears streaming not from pain, but from relief. Justice had arrived. The crowd outside roared, people wept, strangers hugged each other. She stepped out of the courtroom, the sun warm on her skin. A reporter rushed forward. "Kemi, what now?" She smiled gently and said, "Now I live." And she walked away, not as a victim, not as a survivor, but as the girl who ended the silence. A month after the verdict, Kemi was no longer just a name in the Headlinesh. He was a national figure. Universities invited her to speak. Women's groups asked her to lead seminars. International news agencies reached out for interviews. But fame didn't excite her. She chose to stay quiet for a while. Instead, she used part of the government compensation funds to open a small foundation, the Ades Foundation, named after the girl whose pendant changed everything. The mission was clear: help girls trapped in forced relationships, give them safe shelter, and teach them that their voice matters. Ronke became the first house manager. Amaka helped run a trauma support group, and Mr. Thomas continued fighting legal cases for survivors. One afternoon, Kemi returned to her old neighborhood in Ikorodu. The corn stand was still there, though faded. Her mother, now healthier, met her with open arms. "I still don't understand how you stayed strong," her mother said softly. Kemi smiled. "Because I had no choice." Kids gathered, whispering, "That's her, the girl who fought the billionaire." She gave them a smile and waved. Later that night, she sat in her new apartment in Surulere, writing in her own journal not about pain, but about purpose. But healing came with its own challenges. Sometimes she still woke up in the middle of the night, hearing the soft click of Chief's study door. Sometimes she flinched when she saw a black SUV. The past had left its mark. It always would. One day, a letter arrived. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a small mirror. On the back, it read, "You broke the cycle. Now let others see their reflection." Kemi stared at it for a long time. That week, she launched a project called Reflectionsa Mobile Team of volunteers who visited schools and villages to teach girls about self-worth, abuse awareness, and legal rights. She received hundreds of emails like, "I was in a forced marriage too. I thought no one would believe me. Because of you, I walked away before it was too late." Each message reminded her that her pain had become someone else's courage. That night, as she watched the city lights flicker from her balcony, she whispered to the stars, "I didn't just survive him, I defeated him." And the city, quiet and peaceful, whispered back. 3 months later, Kemi received an invitation she never expected. "You have been nominated for the National Courage Award." She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply closed her eyes and breathed. The awards ceremony was held in Abuja. Her name was called last, and when she stepped onto the stage, the room rose in applause. But Kemi didn't speak about herself. She spoke about Adayes, about Temelad, about every girl whose name had been scratched into that chamber wall. "I accept this not for what I've done," she said, voice steady, "but for what we can all do when we stop being afraid, when we stop being silent." The entire room stood. After the ceremony, as she walked through the quiet hotel hallway, she saw someone standing alone by the glass window. Zainab, out on early release for cooperation, dressed simply, no cameras, no drama. They locked eyes. No words, just a nod from Kemi. Forgiveness didn't mean friendship, it meant freedom. And for the first time in a long time, Kemi felt completely free. A year had passed. Kemi now ran Reflections full-time, working with dozens of volunteers. The mansion that once imprisoned her had been seized by the government and turned into a women's shelter. The room of mirrors? Gone. The chamber? Broken down. The wall with names had been preserved though. A quiet memorial with a sign that read, "In honor of the unheard, you are never forgotten." Kemi stood in front of it one cloudy afternoon, placing a fresh flower beside Adayes' name. Then she turned and walked away. Not with fear, not with tears, but with peace. Her story wasn't just about a poor girl who married a rich old man. It was about what happened after. How a victim became a voice. How a silence became a scream. And how one secret became the beginning of change. The end.